Discovery now moving across high above Western Australia. And while Discovery passes high across the high above the Great Victoria Desert in the southern portion of the continent, this view looking north, much of the features of the entire continent visible. Now a little bit more than 11.5 minutes from release of the telescope on time at the planned 5:03 p.m., 6:03 this evening's Eastern Time. And Discovery now flying high above Australia's Northern Territory. With Lake Neal and Lake Amadeus and the McDonnell Ranges falling away beneath Discovery. Again, this view looking toward the northeast, basically in the direction of Discovery's travel. Now under 10 minutes from release. And Discovery is now crossing the border between the Northern Territory now into Queensland, continuing its northeasterly track that will take it out across the coastline at about the town of Townsville, Australia, and the Great Barrier Reef just off the coast. And approaching 6 minutes from release of the Hubble Space Telescope, Discovery is now flying high above the Great Dividing Range of Queensland. Should cross the Australian coastline on the northeast coast between the cities of Cairns and Townsville. With the actual release of the telescope expected high above the Coral Sea at an altitude of about 370 statute miles. Four minutes from release of the Hubble Space Telescope, Discovery is now passing high above the coastline, the northeast coastline of Australia. Wrapping up the 89th orbit of its mission, the deploy again of the telescope will be high above the Coral Sea off the northeast coast of Australia. And the Guidance, Navigation, and Control Systems Officer here in Mission Control reporting that the aft flight controller power is on. That indicating that Commander Kirk Brown now at the aft flight station along with pilot Scott Kelly ready to initiate the separation maneuver from the Hubble Space Telescope upon release, now 2 minutes away. Once released, the robotic arm will be gently moved away from the telescope, at which point Commander Kirk Brown and pilot Scott Kelly will very gently perform 2 separation maneuvers from the telescope. These will be very subtle engine firings of about 1 foot per second that will show Discovery, have Discovery basically sliding away from the telescope so as not to have any of the thruster firings imparting any perturbations to the telescope during the back away. Discovery's astronauts have sent a command to the telescope for it to head to sun point attitude. That's a timer. Once released from the robotic arm, about 30 seconds away from release now. Now about 10 seconds away from release. We're standing by for confirmation of release of the Hubble Space Telescope on this Christmas Day. High above the Coral Sea off the northeast coast of Australia, 373 miles above the Earth's surface. And as we can see, the Hubble Space Telescope, Christmas present to the world, now refurbished after 3 spacewalks, 24.5 hours of service on the telescope, now being returned to space to conduct the scientific investigations for which it was designed. The release coming right on time at 5:03 p.m. Central, 6:03 this evening Eastern Time, and the first separation maneuver being performed. And Discovery and its 7 astronauts now saying goodbye to the Hubble Space Telescope, which has resided in the payload bay for the last 5 days. The telescope again on its way back to service following this 3rd servicing mission.
Houston Discovery, we have a release or SEP-1 burn TIG of 5 days, 22 hours, 13 minutes, 45 seconds.
Copy, 22:13:45.
Pilot Scott Kelly confirming the separation maneuver. He's in charge, flying the orbiter away from the Hubble Space Telescope.
And Discovery, congratulations for an excellent deploy. Thanks for the great Christmas present. It's just what we wanted.
The Hubble project confirming they're seeing all of the systems in good shape on the Hubble Space Telescope. Standing by for the telescope to assume a sun pointing command that will prove that the sequence and the computers on board are taking over control of the telescope as Discovery continues to back away at a very slow rate of about a point-tenth of a foot per second. And the good news from the Hubble project now is that the telescope is officially in sun point, so all continue to go very smoothly with this deploy sequence with the Hubble Space Telescope. The two spacecraft now heading out across the Pacific Ocean, just about to cross the equator on a northeasterly swing. That will take them across the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula, northern Mexico, the southern tip of Texas, before heading out across the Gulf of Mexico and the Florida Peninsula. And the crew now has taken command of the shuttle's dish antenna, switching it from command into radar mode. The crew will use that now to provide real-time data on the range to the telescope and also the opening rate to assist with managing the distance from the telescope as Discovery continues to back away. And courtesy of the Merritt Island Tracking Station, the Hubble Space Telescope, 830 feet away from Discovery. As Discovery flies high above the Gulf of Mexico, just about to swing across the Florida Peninsula to begin a swing out across the Atlantic Ocean on the midpoint of the 90th orbit of Discovery's mission. Hubble Space Telescope officially back in business as the HST project reporting the telescope is in normal mode and under its own gyroscope control, just as it should be, and for the first time since before Thanksgiving, when the fourth of 6 gyroscopes failed, putting the telescope in the safe mode until Discovery's arrival earlier this week. Hubble is now nearing 900 feet away from Discovery, about a minute and a half to the second of two separation maneuvers to be performed by pilot Scott Kelly. This one, a 7-second burn using the orbiter's reaction control system to change Discovery's velocity by 1.7 feet per second, just a little bit more than a mile per hour, but just enough to continue in a retrograde fashion, meaning putting Discovery a little bit lower still than the telescope, which in effect makes Discovery circle the Earth a bit faster, increasing the distance between the two spacecraft as they now head apart 900 feet, with the two spacecraft crossing the Florida coastline, heading out now across the coastline out across the Atlantic Ocean. And these pictures from Discovery looking at the Hubble Space Telescope, courtesy of the Merritt Island Tracking Station in Florida. Now 10 seconds away from SEP 2, the second of two separation maneuvers to be performed by Discovery, again by Scott Kelly, working from an aft flight control station, looking out into the payload bay and out the overhead windows at the telescope.
Houston Discovery, SEP 2 tick time, 5 days, 22:48:56.
Copy, 5:22:48:56.
Discovery and the Hubble Space Telescope moving into an orbital sunset, heading out across the Atlantic Ocean, just about to reach the midpoint of the 90th orbit of Discovery's mission. All went very smoothly today with the pre-deploy and deploy activities, pretty much right on the timeline and by the book, with the Hubble project having no problems in activating and checking out the systems of the telescope before it was deployed. Again, the official release time from the shuttle's robotic arm coming at 5:03 p.m. Central Time, 6:03 this evening Eastern Time, as the two spacecraft flew above the Coral Sea just off the northeast coast of Australia.
Houston Discovery for FAO.
Go ahead,
Stevie Ray, did FAO print the message on board for us?
Yes, we attempted to on the color printer.
Okay, well, we have it on board printed, so I went down there to print it, and it was already there. Merry Christmas.
Yes, indeed.
While the stowage is continuing with the flight support system on board, the crew is about ready to repressurize Discovery's crew compartment from the 10.2 pounds per square inch, which has basically been used throughout the spacewalks, designed to minimize the length of time that astronauts pre-breathe pure oxygen before conducting spacewalks. With all the spacewalks completed and Hubble now back on its own, the orbiter's crew compartment will be repressurized now back from 10.2 pounds per square inch up to 14.7, which is essentially the same amount of air pressure inside the cabin that we feel here on Earth. As it is being put through its paces to ensure that the snares and the backup capture system is working just fine. This is a great opportunity to see how those snares actually intertwine around the pin on a grapple fixture and lock tightly.
Cabin, and want to know if you can get the rest of them.
Copy, Scott. We'll take care of the rest.
Houston Discovery for the VTR flyback.
Go ahead.
Roger, we're looking for the subject of that, or is that another time for Commander Claus?
That's an excellent idea, but if you have any other video about of the deploy, especially from the flight deck windows, that would also be appreciated, although probably not quite as much.
Okay, we copy. We had camera B on the telescope through release and through all the set maneuvers, and so that ought to give you a good view, so we'll wind that up.
And Kurt, actually we had that live, believe it or not. It was just spectacular from our point of view. Did you get any in-cabin video?
Yes, we did. We'll see what we can do with that.
Okay, that sounds good. And also, I'm looking at the Flight Day 7 PAO event, message 44. I have one name change on there. No hurry on that. I just wanted to remind you.
Okay, can you tell me what that is now on the Flight Day 7? That's, I assume, today, PAO, but...
That is indeed today. It's all it is a name change. If you want to call AP Radio correspondent by name, it will not be the name printed. It will instead be Norm Hall, H-A-L-L.
Okay, we copy the name change. Houston Discovery for PDRS.
Go ahead.
To report the results of the backup release test. The 5 tests were completed successfully. The times in order were 17 seconds, 16, 16, 16, and 15. And each time we saw the beginning of the motion, the first 5 seconds, were slightly shaky and a bit slow, and then it was a very smooth and steady rate for opening the snares.
Thank you, Jean-Francois, for the good report. 17, 3 times 16, and then 15.
That's correct.